This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. This week's episode is brought to you again by our friends at themagicbookshop.com. Thank you, Eric Citron, again for being our sponsor. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please go over and look at his books that he has for sale that are new and used, old, out of print, rare. Some are signed. If you're looking for something that people have been recommending to you and you've been trying to find it on eBay, maybe that you need to go and check it out now over at themagicbookshop.com. He's got a lot of stuff that if you can't find any place else, you might be able to find it through Eric's shop over there. And if you use the code MAGICWORD, all one word, no spaces, hyphens, or anything like that, that you will get a 15% discount on all of your purchases there at themagicbookshop.com. So thank you, Eric, and I appreciate all of you going and checking him out because it is because of sponsorships like his and those patrons that are the friends of the Magic Word that help us with our finances to keep this podcast going day by day and week by week. So we thank all of them for their sponsorship, their patronage, and also thank each of you listeners for coming in each week. And also that we have a thing going called the Magician's Relief Project. And that Magician's Relief Project allows some money to be sent to a dealer that will provide credit for some magician who could use that relief. We're in a time right now in which that some people are in particularly financial straits and could use a little bit of additional help. And this is something I think that will help with some self-esteem. And also you'll learn some cool magic that you can buy, some new stuff, because I know that right now that you're looking for just some basics, food, clothing, shelter, covering everything that's necessary, but it'd be kind of nice to buy some magic too. So anyhow, there's a form over there. So if you are in need or you know someone who is, just complete that form. And if you're also one of the people who would like to assist with your financial donation, just let me know. Just give me an email. Just drop it to scott@themagicwordpodcast.com, and I'll let you know how you can help. And any amount, I'm sure, would be appreciated. And that money will, again, go and help not only that magician who needs some relief, but also a magic dealer who could use your support then as well. Because during these times, there are some brick and mortar shops that are having some difficulty. They may have some online presence, but not as much as what some of the other major online magic shops have. They still have their brick and mortar shop expenses like leases and their staff and everybody else that they have to take care of. Anyhow, you get the idea. Go check that out. And also, we are continuing into our second week of a contest thanks to Jonathan Levitt, who has offered a copy of his app for both the iPhone and another one for the Android of The Stranger. This is a really great application. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. If you go to the website, you can find out more information about it. But I want to thank Jonathan for this. And coincidentally, as we were talking with this week's guest, Mr. Darryl Rose, in conversation, we were talking about some great apps that you can have on your phone. And at the time we recorded this, which was in early April of 2020, that we were discussing The Stranger. And at that time, I was mentioning that the Android version would be coming out soon. And well, it wasn't out until just this past week. And so it's now available, and that's one of the ones he's giving away for free. And that contest is, again, over on the website. So go to themagicwordpodcast.com for this week's blog and fill out the form. And perhaps you might be one of the lucky listeners whose name will be drawn randomly. By the way, last week we were talking with another UK citizen, Mark Mason, and one of the things we had discussed tangentially was Tam Shepherd's, which is up in Glasgow, Scotland, that was run by the late, great Roy Walton. And we mentioned Peter McClanahan, and I got an email from him, and I just wanted to read this and give you a follow-up as to some of the facts of Tam Shepherd's. He said, I've just been listening to your conversation with Mark Mason, and you spoke about Tam Shepherd's in Glasgow. To bring you up to speed, Roy's daughters will be keeping the shop going. They have essentially been running it for the past few years, but Roy was still going in 3 or 4 times a week until not long before his passing. In Glasgow and the surrounding areas, the shop is famous for selling practical jokes of all kinds. Over the years, I have seen many parents bringing their children in saying, "My dad brought me here whenever I was of your age." The great thing is that it still really is busy on the run-up to Halloween and people buying costumes or accessories for their Halloween parties or going out, quote, guising. The word guising is from the word guise, and this is a Scottish version of trick-or-treat. Oh, it's called Tam Shepherd's because that is the name of the original owner back in 1886. And the great thing is they now have an online presence at tamshepherds.com. That's TAMSHEPHERDS.com. So thank you, Peter, for that clarification and a little bit of history then as well. Well, let's get into this week's guest, and that is Darryl Rose. Darryl joins us from the UK. He is living in London and as a professional or part-time professional magician over there. He actually works in the television industry and is, in fact, has earned an Emmy. I think that's kind of cool. He's done a lot of things, not just from the UK, but also for places in the United States like ABC and NBC, all the major networks, and ESPN. Anyhow, he does a lot of magic work as a corporate magician over there and is very entertaining and also sits on the council for the Magic Circle. I know that a lot of the stuff we talk about will be of interest to you because we also talk about social media and also about some opportunities where that you might find some place to perform and generate additional revenue. Anyhow, I'm not going to get into spoiling too much of our conversation. I'm going to let you enjoy it as it unfolds. So please welcome my guest this week, Mr. Darryl Rose, here on The Magic Word. Well, I have with me now a guest all the way over from London, England, a good friend of mine who I see annually at Fechter's Finger Flicking Frolic, which is now called Obie's 4F Convention, which is held usually annually in late April in New York. And Darryl is one of the fellows also who hosts one of the country shows. We have different kinds of shows in which there'll be like the Spanish show, the Italian show, the English show. And so he has hosted that in the past. Very entertaining gentleman. He serves also on the council for the Magic Circle there in London. So please welcome my guest, Mr. Darryl Rose. Hey there, Darryl.
Hi, Scott. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good to have you on the podcast here as well. I'm doing very well. I know the Magic Circle is something that you've been working with for a long time, and I first of all want to congratulate and thank you for one of the things that the Magic Circle started doing several years ago, and that is the live stream broadcasting that you were doing for your evening shows on Facebook. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that began?
Oh, absolutely. Been championing that for many, many years because I actually, as well as being a magician, I also work in television and broadcast. So that was a natural progression for the Magic Circle to be able to reach out to our international members so that we could stream all our lectures every single week, whether it's a show or a demonstration or it's a lecture, every single week. And not only that, to keep them up on Facebook so that you can go back 3.5 years now every single week and see every single lecturer. We've got a good database that you can cross-reference. But not only that, for the last 30 plus years, the most amazing man called Bob Hamilton, who's our videographer, has been recording every single show for our archive for the last 30 years. So we now have all this footage that basically is there in our library. It's being digitized as we speak. And the intention is that we can upload to our website, not to Facebook, but to our website, a lockdown version of this. And then we can become the Ask Alexander of videos. So we've got videos of Ali Bongo from 30 years ago, Pat Page, all the greats, you name them, that have been through the doors at the Magic Circle over the last 30 odd years, that have lectured and demonstrated. And we will have them to show our members worldwide. So it's a great time to join the Magic Circle, and it's a great time to be part of it.
Yeah, let me just mention that as well, that for people who are listening to this saying, hey, that's great, where can I go and watch this? Well, you can't unless you're a member of the Magic Circle, because that is a private Facebook group that is closed only to members. So if you have to be accepted in membership into the Magic Circle, first of all, then be accepted onto the Facebook page to join that in order to watch that.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, because we're in a pretty lockdown situation in the country right now, just like you are over there, we've started and set up the Magic Circle TV. So for the last couple of weeks, because we can't show a show or a lecture, we've creating our own original content every single week. We're putting out an hour show at 7:30 GMT, which is when we're normally on a Monday when we're lecturing and showing our lectures. We've now got content from multiple members of the Magic Circle, including this week we had Andy Nyman show one of his new effects that he was actually going to put out.
Wow.
But he has shared it with the Magic Circle, and he showed the secret as well, and it's the most it's a great trick, great principle, and it's something only Andy Nyman could do. And if you remember, you can go back this week's Monday TMC TV and watch it.
Wow, that does sound great. And for those who don't know Andy Nyman, who are listening to this, of course, he's one of the consultants and a close friend with Darren Brown. So everything he does is great.
Absolutely. And not only that, he's the director of most of his stage shows as well, as well as being one of the, and the most amazing actor as well.
Yeah, what's Darren up to, by the way? As he, as far as was he after he came back? I saw him in November, I believe it was, or maybe it was early December of 2019 when he came over to Broadway and was doing his show Secret, and then he was going to be finishing up in January and then going back. So did he pick up and do some things down in West End, or what was he doing after that? Or no?
No, well, I believe that his show in New York was cut short, obviously, because of the blackout due to the situation, what's happening in the world with COVID-19. Oh, and, and he was due to tour, I think, this spring around the UK. But again, that's been put on hold until the world gets back to normality.
That's true that England actually kind of jumped on this a lot sooner than the U.S. and some other countries then as well, as far as recognizing the severity of it and being hit extremely hard, then as well as Italy and a few others by the coronavirus. But back on the TV, the Magic Circle TV, is that available then also just through the website only?
Yes, it's on
the Facebook page. I didn't say.
Absolutely, it's on the Facebook group at the moment, and as I say, you can just go back search the last TMC TVs if you are a member, and you can go back and watch them. And of course, it's very interesting times that we're in at the moment because of we want to be able to share and give stuff to our members. So, because magicians, we're crying out for material, we're crying out to be with our friends, we're naturally drawn to be with people. So this way we get keep in contact with all of our members. And most magicians, we're quite clever in how we do communicate. You only have to look at the Facebook and the TikToks, and you realize that now magicians have got even more time on their hands that they normally have.
That's a very good point.
Around on their backsides all day long. And the amount of content that you are now seeing, whether it be for private use or just for magician use, for magician to magician, or for magician to the public, it's just amazing the amount of content out there. Everything from, virtual mentalism weekends all the way through to mini lectures from X and mini lectures from Y. And it's very intuitive thing for all of us to do. Even I'm sort of thinking to myself, I now have time on my hands to put out a little 1 minute clip of me doing some magic in a fun way, not just for me, but for my friends and family. It's not necessarily for magicians. I'm really not interested in what other magicians think of me, but it's for friends and family. And this is what all the other magicians are doing as well. And this way, we're just creating so much more global magical content and some great little ideas. And it's good even in these troubled times.
Well, I believe that magicians have always been on the leading edge of technology because that seems to be magic. If other people aren't up on what's happening, for an example, going back in history, that before everyone had caller ID, I remember my buddy Banachek had caller ID, and whenever I had someone call me one time, and the first thing they said is, "How does he do it?" I said, "First of all, who is this, and why do you call it?" So, well, I was calling Banachek, and the first thing he said is, "Hello there, Susan. How can I help you?" And how did he know that it was me? And I said, well, he's a mind reader. Well, he's also a reader. He can read, the caller ID. And my point being is that, and then once everybody got it, same thing. Same thing with apps on your phone and whatnot. It used to be that things were really cool and people would be amazed. Now they'd say, well, where'd you get that app? Well, that's why we're trying to get things that are going to be not so apparent that your phone or your iPad or something else is doing it, but it's something that you're doing. I just think it's important to recognize that magicians are the ones who kind of are on that leading edge, and that we should be the ones who are coming up with that kind of content and coming up with whatever that next great idea is. But before, and I don't think we've gotten there yet, but I think before we get to that, we have to kind of run through all of the other known things and be comfortable with those before we can say, hey, did you know you could do this or that, or here's another option. So I think we're on the cusp here very soon of learning some and developing and releasing something that will be new in the digital format.
Well, they always did say that the British are great at writing and music and writing full stop. And the reason is because of our really dark and cold winters that we have. So people aren't incentivized to go out into the world. So indoors, they stay and be creative.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what the world's doing now. Incidentally, it's quite interesting. You're talking about apps. It's funny how now, all of a sudden, now that everyone's in lockdown and everyone's trying to earn a crust, that all these new apps have started to appear on iTunes, straight around on the Google Store, and it's a great time to be releasing material, as many other magicians are. And I understand it's all trying to generate business and trying to keep everyone's heads above the water. So I don't begrudge it at all, but it does make a little wry smile, saying, I thought that was supposed to be coming out in a couple of months' time. Funny how it's out now.
Yeah, it came out a little bit earlier than anticipated. Yeah, in order to have a release, because they need some income then to pay the rent. And with all the content and everything that's out there, my podcast has been going for nearly 10 years and slowly gaining more and more subscribers. But I've noticed that the analytics actually have been reduced a little bit, and I think that's because there is so much streaming content and digital things you can watch and hear. New podcasts that are starting up as well, because people have time on their hands, so that they only have X amount of time during a day, and where before they were able to listen to this podcast, now there are other options. They may get back to this eventually, because I think some of these things are fairly flash in the pan. I don't think they're going to be ongoing, because after everybody gets back to regular business as usual, that they won't have the time to develop the things that are have been developed now. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you touched on something about the apps where lay people could think, it's just an app. And of course, the beauty about the best magical apps that are out there at the moment is that it's just an incidental. You're just using your phone just as by the way, and let's look up this number that's on the list on my notes, and it's an insignificant thing. So for me, an amazing magic app isn't about the app or showing off your phone. It's just used as a tool.
I know what you're talking about, and Nicholas Einhorn had come up with the digital force bag, which is the best thing out there, period.
Absolutely. It's probably the best app that's ever been created. That, and to be fair, some of Mark Kirstein's apps, like Wikitest and Earworm, are pretty good and up there too. And
Inject has got a lot of really good
yeah, Greg Rostami, absolutely, it's superb. As is TAP, T-A-P, that's also the Architect of Prediction.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
That's you need to look it up. It's
you say it's called the Art of Prediction? TAP? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Architect of Predictions, TAP. And one of the basic effects is that you talk about that I was in Milan 2 weeks ago, probably getting COVID-19. and coronavirus, but I was in a hotel room, and it's one of the old hotels, with the big, solid brass keys that you shouldn't carry around with you, so you have to leave it in reception.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm always forgetting which room number I'm in. It's there's too much happening in my mind. So I actually took a picture of the key that was on the bed, so that I would remember that when I got back to the hotel, I could just ask for the room number and I didn't look silly. So, and that was 2 weeks ago. In fact, I think it was on, you just say January the 1st. It was on New Year's Day, and you say, and you've no idea what room number I was in, do you, Scott? You haven't an idea.
No idea.
If you were to just guess, if I was to mentally, telethought the numbers to you, what number would you say?
1081.
1081. That's really interesting, because remember I said it was on January the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look into my photos right now, and you scroll all the way, and these are my photos, and you scroll back to January the 1st, there should be a picture of my key on the bed.
Right.
And you've got it, yeah. And if you zoom in now onto the key, what number is it? And the number's 1081.
Yeah.
On the key.
Wow.
On the key. So it's as powerful as that. That's just one little thing it can do. Another thing that's just the most amazing thing it can do is you integrate it with other existing magic tricks out there, like the mental dice, which is the electronic dice where you have a red, green, and blue, or a red, white, and blue dice, and you roll them, and then you can tell which numbers they are. So not only that, that the white one's 1, the blue is 2, and the green is 3. You have a picture again on a certain day, and you have a pack of cards as well. So you've got dice and you've got cards. So they roll the dice, and it comes up 1, 2, 3. You've got the pack of cards that's been shuffled. You then go to the photo. In the photo is the dice, and the white dice is number 1, the blue is 2, the green is 3, just as is. And then on the notepad written under the dice of the picture, it says, you add up the totals of the dice, which is 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6. And it says the card at the 6th position is the 9 of diamonds, and you count the cards over, and the 6th position is the 9 of diamonds.
Wow.
So it's a very, very strong app, and it's pretty damn good.
That's just some of the other things that same app can do, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's totally customizable. It's probably one of the yeah.
That's cool without having to buy one of the Pro Mystic dies,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's look it up. I recommend it.
Is that available both on Android as well as Apple?
That I don't know. I've only got an iPhone, so I only know about the iPhone side of it, unfortunately. But I do know that DFB Digital Force Bag is on Android as well now.
Right, that's what I use. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, another one is called The Stranger that Jonathan Levitt had put out some time ago that's been on the iPhone and apparently is going to be released, and by the time this podcast comes out, it may be on the Android by then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with that as well, and not only that, Mark talking about Mark Kirstein, who is Wikitest and Earworm, as well as a load of new apps that in fact he released this week. Funnily enough, he has an app called Diverter, which I do believe came out before The Stranger, which basically is an app which will the punter will type in any telephone number, random, and it will dial the number that you want. Mm-hmm. So it's the idea of which The Stranger is based upon, as far as obviously there's a whole interaction now with the person and with the stranger. I think it sends a text to your confederates, which card it is. Mm-hmm. Whereas the diverter app with Mark Kirstein, it has to be just prearranged. But the ideas are the same, So we're all standing on the shoulder of giants, and a lot of these apps are have got little things from each other, and
sure.
It's amazing the technology out there. And talking of technology, even last night at the Magic Circle, we had our council meeting, and it's the first time ever, obviously, because the social distancing. We had a Zoom meeting for the first time ever, with 12, 13 of us all sitting at home, all having the meeting, which was pretty cool. And I've also seen and heard of other magicians that are trying to do interactive magic shows. So you know, of course, we've all lost bookings, you know, all of us, and probably will do for continue for the next 5-6 months.
Right.
But instead of having a live show, why not have an interactive show? Get your family in front of the sofa, stick your computer on, dial me up, and I will perform a show for you. Okay, so because people are going to get bored at home, so why not use the initiative and create a show that can be used for this purpose. It's effectively like performing on TV, but obviously come up with a 30-minute show and see how creative you can be.
That's true. Not only that you could also just have something that would be for a company, so that when companies are going to be still going to be having a meeting of some sort, but they can't like they normally do, and so they're going to be getting together through a Zoom conference. That you can still, if you were going to be hired by them to do a show during their conference anyhow, you might as well say, hey, can I still be part of your conference? I can still perform maybe some interactive magic as well as just doing a show, for everybody watching. And so you can still, I think, do a show that way. A friend of mine here locally, Jamie Salinas, is doing birthday parties, believe it or not, using I don't know if he's using Skype or Zoom. I think he's using Zoom, in which that he would have the birthday child and other children who would be attending that child's party, basically, virtually, can all be watching him, and he's doing a show, and he's talking to each of the children because he sees their names, and he can talk to the birthday child and have them help or picking a number or whatever. So he does like a 30-minute birthday party. I was talking with him a couple nights ago, and he said, well, I got to leave. He said, I got 2 shows tonight. And I said, where are you going? He said, just in my living room, I'm going to do this show. And he was explaining that to me about how there's an opportunity too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's needs must, but it needs must time. That's when you become most creative, and absolutely. Why not? Why not? Indeed. In fact, I saw I think the Late Show with James Corden. He had something last night with Dear Evan Hansen, with the entire cast singing singing songs. Bands are still playing together. Using Zoom and some of the other technology out there. And you can understand how it could become the norm, at some point.
Yeah.
Why not? Especially for nursing homes and people that really can't get out.
That's right.
So I think technology is really at its best. And what I really find is most amazing in these times is that literally the entire world must be on their internet. The amount of data that is flying around the world
the bandwidth
is immense.
Mm-hmm.
The bandwidth, everything seems to be relatively stable. So, okay, we haven't got the 5Gs yet and everything else, but it's at this moment in time, it's pretty good.
Right. Well, going back to the Magic Circle and some of the things that you've been doing, I know we were talking about the videos and the lectures and things that you've had over there that, and over the years there have been, well, we just celebrated the centenary. When was that, 2002 or 2004, somewhere in there?
The centenary was, no, it was around 2005? Yeah, something like 2004, 2005. Yeah, definitely.
Something like that. Well, I should look. I've got.
Sorry, me. Of course, it was 1905. We were set up. So yes, it was 2005. I was just trying to think how long we've been in our building. That was confusing me.
Oh,
yes, yeah. 1905 we formed.
Because that was a very interesting convention in which that was the first one that I had attended, where that all of the speakers were not teaching tricks, but kind of giving mini TED Talks, kind of like what at Magic Live, a lot of things that Stan Allen has for his people who are speaking on stage that are not always teaching tricks. And so anyhow, that was the first time I had seen that, where they'd also had some people who were talking, like with John Calvert or David Berglis, and even Prince Charles was doing the cups and balls. That was pretty cool. But anyhow, I thought that was just a wonderful, wonderful convention. Back then.
It was, and it was a one of a kind, and I don't know when we'll be doing the next one as big as that, maybe for our 150th anniversary. But
yeah, hope I'm around.
Well, I know. But having said that, there is a hunger for big conventions around the world. Obviously, you have them in Vegas, and this side of the world.
Yeah.
we have Blackpool, and Blackpool this year was probably the best Blackpool that's ever been. It was just amazing. We had Lance Burton and Matt King over, and not only that, Wayne Dobson got to fly in his wheelchair above the stage, and for me personally, we had Arturo Brachetti, who did his one-man show that probably singly, and I have seen a lot of theatre. I've almost seen every single musical in the West End over the last 20 odd years. It's probably the best show I've ever seen. It was just amazing. And if you're ever in Italy, once you can go back to Italy, and once he's touring again, is to go and see Arturo perform. It was just out of this world.
What was his name?
Arturo Brachetti.
Right. He was supposed to have been one of the hosts, I think, at FISM when it was in Rimini a few years ago, and then for some reason his name kind of disappeared from the program. But
I do believe I think he was the creative director.
Okay.
And yes, and I don't think he was allowed to be the creative director. So things changed.
I don't know
absolutely,
what
no. But he politically, but he has the most amazing creative mind and most amazing show that just takes you through a journey of your mind, as well as 70 odd quick changes. In the space of an hour. It was just sensational.
He did come through the U.S., and I regret when he came through Houston that I did not see the show. I remember that was back when H&R Magic Books was still in business, and Dick Hatch still lived here in Houston. And in fact, he had Arturo come up, and I don't know if he gave a mini lecture or he was just saying he was going to get together with him for lunch. I don't know if I was out of town or what the deal was, but I missed the show and missed an opportunity to spend with him, and I regret that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he is a member of the Inner Magic Circle with Gold Star. And for those that have been around for some time, remember the British series called The Best of Magic, which John Fisher produced.
Sure.
Yeah, at Thames Television in 1987 and 1988, I do believe, where, funnily enough, it Bossman's holiday for me because I was the assistant floor manager on that show. So it was me knocking on the doors of the dressing room and saying, Mr. Burglar, could you please come to the studio floor? Arturo was one of the presenters. So he was one of the presenters with Jeffrey Durham. So if you look back on all those tapes in the archive of those shows, you'll see Arturo.
I actually do have those DVDs in my files. I'm going to have to go back and pull that out. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But he's been doing quick change for a very long time now, and he's probably the best in the world at it.
So your full-time job then is not doing magic so much as it is working in the audiovisual field.
Well, when you say again, you say full-time job. I left college back in the late 80s, and I went to Sky Television, which was Rupert Murdoch's new satellite channel before satellite had even come into this country, and then left there in 1991. So this is coming up to my 30th year of being freelance. But I left because I was offered a summer season down in Brighton, which is a seaside town, to do a summer season down there for 6 weeks to do magic. So, to say I'm not, so I've been a professional magician ever since, and it just so happens I also freelance in TV. So, there are certain magicians that will look down upon you because you don't earn your sole money from being a magician. And that implies you cannot be a professional magician. Well, I totally disagree with you. I am a professional magician.
Right.
I do many corporate and many private parties and corporate jobs, and as well as that, I freelance in TV. So I'm a live editor in television. So I work for all the broadcasters, including I did 15 years with NBC Breakfast at Wimbledon. So I've worked at Wimbledon. Tennis for the last 21 years, 15 and then with NBC. I've worked for ESPN and for CBS, ABC, the Olympics. I worked for NBC again for in Athens in 2004, where I'm proud to say I won an Emmy. So I have an Emmy. Brett has an Emmy on his mantelpiece, thank you very much, in London. So not blowing my own trumpet or anything, but I'm very, very proud of that because there's not many Brits that have got an Emmy. So this whole thing about you can't be a professional, I don't agree with that at all. So
Gene Anderson had a lecture out that was called Part-Time Professional, and I like that term rather than being a an amateur or a semi-professional, because a semi means you're not fully professional. But when you're a part-time professional, it means that you have another thing that you're doing. But when you are performing, that you are as professional as a full-time professional. But you're now just doing this on a part-time basis, basically. Which there are a lot of people doing it, and they are just as good as those who are full-time.
Yeah, that's great. And next time I see Gene, hopefully next year at 4S, I'll mention it, because that's the first time I've heard of that. So that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Part-time professional.
Yes.
Great.
So with that you have done then a lot of television, and in doing that, you're mentioning like working with the John Fisher show as well. And did you ever work on any of Paul Daniels shows?
I did. I worked on the later series of Paul Daniels, just recording it, funnily enough. So that was my role at the time. So I would record the shows, because they weren't actually, sometimes they weren't actually recorded at the BBC. They were recorded at a facility house in Soho. So that would have actually been about 1989, ironically. And the same thing, I worked on the Quick Trick show with Stephen Mulhern. And I worked on some of the Darren shows, which were recorded at the theatres. With Anthony Owen, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Even Darren's first ever theatre show, which was Something Wicked This Way Comes. If you look on the credits as they roll quickly, I think my name's on there somewhere that you can see. So magic and TV have crossed paths, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So there's nothing better than working on a magic show.
Do you have any tips on how people should, whenever they're going to be performing on television, and in particular, we've been talking about now doing magic in front of your own camera, basically, but whenever that you're performing where you have another cameraman, someone that you're working with and working with a host, any ideas, suggestions, or tips for people who are on television, or once that you get that opportunity to do some television magic to promote a show?
I would say, and I think all the kids today, they're already doing it, whether it's being on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok, which seems to be the new big thing. TikTok, is that get your face in the camera, get your face full frame. You want a big close up of your face so people see the magic and your face.
So not just your hands, but your face.
Not just your hands. No one's interested in your hands and what you're doing in that. And bring the magic up to your face so that you can see your big smile and people can see your eyes. And because that's what they will remember. They won't necessarily remember the trick, but they will remember you. And the ones that are succeeding right now, on the TikToks and all these platforms and all the social media, they've got characters and they're personable and it's the faces that people are remembering, not necessarily the trick.
Well, that's a good point. And I have had several conversations with Murray Sawchuk, usually around Christmas time, in which I kind of get updates on what's happening in Las Vegas during the previous year and shows that have opened and closed, but also because I think he's a master of the social media and knowing how to work that to its finest detail, with the millions of YouTube followers that he has. And it's like, well, how do you do that? Because there are people like himself who are, during these times when you're not performing, still have income coming in because there are a lot of eyeballs, watching that, and so therefore sponsors that will pay to have those eyeballs, basically. So that's where people will make their money. And it was, I've forgotten who it was who had suggested that it doesn't matter when you get in, just get in and start publishing content, putting things out there, eventually that you'll start to get a following. And when you figure out what it is that people are following, do more of that, basically.
Absolutely. Well, a friend of mine called Julius Dean, he started, he wanted to become a media social star, and everyone was posting on YouTube, and it was saturated, and Facebook at that time started to let you upload videos, and he thought to himself, you know what, I'm not going to be a follower, I'm going to do my own thing. And within literally 3 months, he'd created, a million followers. And within 6 months, he got 2 million. And now, he's got a huge following just on Facebook. Amardeep, who is Magic Singh, he realized that now Facebook was saturated. So the moment TikTok hit, he went on TikTok, and again now he's got over 2 million followers. Just putting these 20-second, little magic tricks on TikTok and getting likes. And of course, it's once you're into that sort of realms of 1 to 2 million, you can earn serious money from your click-throughs and the advertising which is associated with it. So, there's some very good magicians now making plenty of money, and they don't even have to leave their sitting rooms, which is why it goes full circle, doesn't it? We're in a lockdown, and there's people out there making plenty of money for just staying at home, which is what they would be doing anyway.
Yeah, very good point. Rick Lax is another one who had put out a lot of content on his Facebook page, or maybe had just a specific Facebook page that was going to be for magic, in which they were short videos, about 12 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes, basically, with different people around Las Vegas who are friends of his, and kind of following them around from one place to another, getting in the car. It was kind of like the videos that Jerry Seinfeld had done, comedians getting coffee in cars, or something.
That's a great series. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's the same kind of premise, basically, that Rick has, because that he starts off talking with these people, and then they get in the car, and then they were talking about whatever, very congenially, just as very friendly as neighbors, and then going to a show and then getting to see them prepare for the show or whatever they might be doing. But the point is that with that, he's gotten overnight, it seems like, just millions of views on that, which again results in money, in sponsorship. So
absolutely, and he's trying to use that as a vehicle to attach himself to a TV series, a TV commission, which is whatever. That's the quickest way to be seen now.
Well, that's true.
And producers are looking out for that, and other shows that I work on, sort of general entertainment and sort of newsy type LE like entertainment shows. We're drawing clips weekly from the TikToks and your social medias and putting out there on TV. In this time, just incidentally, there's a family that 3 days ago, just for fun, or I think it was 3 days ago, 4 days ago, just for fun, rewrote one of the Les Mis songs to coincide with what's happening in the world right now with the coronavirus and being stuck at home and what they can and can't do. And they posted it just on their lockdown Facebook group, just for their friends and family. And a couple of people said, can you just unlock it so we can share it? Because it's so funny. We really love it. And it's now day 4, and they've had over 7 or 8 million hits.
Wow.
And they've been on every news outlet in the US and the UK. And all the way around the world, and it's great, and it's keeping people entertained, and I don't think they're making any money out of it because they didn't click on the AdSense side of it,
right? So
that they benefit from it, but that wasn't their intention in the first place. But if you do come up with something and a new a creative and a new idea, you can make lots of money from it.
Yeah. Now, have you ever sat in on a pitch meeting, either on one side or the other of the table? You know what I'm talking about, for television?
Yes, I have. And if you're going to ask me for a tip, I've sat on a greatest pitch meeting, and the commissioner said, great, sounds like a great idea, we're going to do it. And they shake hands, and 4 days later, the commissioning editor is fired or has moved on and has been promoted, and that pitch
It's not an unusual story.
Never happens.
Yeah.
So until you sign on the dotted line, I wouldn't count on any pitch. Pitches are interesting. A lot of ideas are just standing on the shoulder of giants. There's nothing really that is a new idea. Apart from one many years ago where it was technology led, ironically, and it got commissioned, and it only lasted a series, and it wasn't as good as it could be. And when I said it was technology led, it was just as night vision cameras came out onto the market that it was in broadcast. So these pure cameras that you could see in the dark. So don't forget, in broadcast, up until then, to have a TV picture, you needed light, and lots of light. The TV cameras needed, big studio lighting for it to work well. and all of a sudden technology changes. You get these cameras that can see in the dark, and basically it was sort of a game show in the dark. The contestants were in pitch black. They couldn't see what they were doing. It was funny for us, but it was obviously we could see because we had the nighttime cameras. And that was new technology, a new idea, a new format, and that got commissioned. As I said, the show didn't last very long, but there you go. You've got to come up with something new, either with technology that the broadcasters have never seen before, or a totally unique idea.
Or from what I understand, usually it's also something in which that, as you talk about Darryl standing on the shoulders of giants, where that the people coming in to have a pitch have recognized that there have been some successes with some things, and they're saying, well, imagine this combined with this, married to this. And it's like, three of those things have been blockbusters, for an example, or something that have been very financially successful. So they're thinking, okay, well, this was good and that was good, so if you combine the two, maybe that would be a good idea. Absolutely.
But I think you're absolutely right. But I think what broadcasters want 9 times out of 10 is the ability to franchise that format. So I worked on I'm a Celebrity. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That's one of the shows I used to work on as well. And of course, the success there was that you could format it into every single country, into every single language. And when the rights were sold, it came along with the music, it came along with the lighting, with the sets. And this is the set you build, this is the lighting, and there was a standardized format across the board, so that it didn't matter where you went to in the world, it was identical.
Just like America's Got Talent, or Britain's Got Talent, and India's Got Talent, whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I noticed you said America's Got Talent first, because don't forget it was a British format. So
that's
yes,
right.
It was Britain's Got Talent first, which again, exactly that, got sold around the world, which then got turned into America's Got Talent and China's Got Talent and all the others. Mm-hmm. So it's all about selling the format, and if you can come up with a format idea that you can sell around the world in every single language, that's when you are now onto a winner.
So what you're saying is that if you're going in to pitch something to a television network, that the best idea perhaps might be to appeal to their longevity of the program. In other words, not something that will make for a good showing for a season or a special, but how can this be franchised to go to a larger audience?
Absolutely. But let's face it, most magicians aren't going to be wanting to that. Most magicians' dream is just to do their magic on TV, to be a Dynamo and to be a David Blaine. So for that, you've got to, again, come up with a totally unique idea, because, now street magic is been and done. David Blaine, been and done. So it's trying to come up with an idea that's slightly different to all these others.
Well, I'm thinking of something, again, going back to Rick Lax, like, for an example, Wizard Wars. Now, there was something, again, that took different people and different aspects of things. There was a reality show and competition and whatnot, and also had Penn and Teller, and so you had some celebrity status, etc. And so you had a lot of elements that would make this go on beyond just the one season, and potentially into syndication and being franchised elsewhere. That kind of a thing. So it's not just about a person, but it's about, a bigger kind of a thing. It seems like R. Paul Wilson had done something in Scotland a while back in which that it was some sort of a scam.
Yeah, the show was with R. Paul Wilson, The Real Hustle.
That was it. Yep, Real Hustle.
Absolutely.
How many seasons did that last, or episodes?
I think it was 7 years.
Wow.
It's about 2006 to 2012, I do believe, if I remember. Mm-hmm. And that was great. And that was Alexis Conran as well as and Jessica Clement, I think her name was. So that involved real hustling. So
right,
using magic in a different way. Again, sometimes they would come up with a pickpocket. Someone would be pickpocketed, and then they show the way of how it was done. But it was using sometimes magical psychology. Obviously, it wasn't really done that way, but you would fool the home audience to think that could be a possibility
mm-hmm.
of how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So almost like a sucker trick, that we show, audiences, from magicians.
Right. I think Apollo Robbins did something like that here in the U.S., where he was talking about pickpocketing or being careful about people stealing your identity and whatnot. And then Brian Brushwood had something that was kind of on from his scam school, where he had it was a network that was handling this, and it was called life hacking or something like that, where they would talk about, how to break into your house if you lost your key, how you make a regular key to work for your house or anybody else's, I guess, for that matter, or how to get out of handcuffs or zip ties and things like that. Anyhow, it was just how to open the garage door. Different, as I said, life hacks, and so it was just a different thing in which I think the people who bought that were thinking that's something that's practical. People might need these life hacks from time to time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it does make you laugh, because really, when you think about it, the Masked Magician from all those years ago with Valentino, some of the COD ideas that he came up with that on how tricks were done were just that. It was just COD ideas.
Yeah.
So again, full circle.
And I want to go back to, speaking of full circle, go back to the Magic Circle in just a second, but I just happened to think as we were talking about Britain's Got Talent and how that Simon Cowell had franchised that, of course, all around. And but as I was thinking about Simon, it made me think of Simon Lovell. And speaking of which, that people frequently will send me texts and say, "What do you hear from Simon? I've tried to reach out. I've tried to get hold of him. I know that he I've heard comes to the Circle meetings from time to time. Have you seen him? What's up? What's the latest on how he's doing?"
Simon Lovell, yeah, he was at the Magic Circle probably about 8 months ago. He's fine. He lives in Milton Keynes, I do believe, which is sort of about an hour and a half outside of London. So he doesn't come in very often. He likes to self-isolate himself, so he doesn't get out very much. He's got a small group of friends that keep in touch with him. One of his friends has sort of given him an internet dongle, so he has access to the internet. But Simon is Simon, and he's getting older, and his health isn't the best, and he's looked after, and he's still a proud member of the Magic Circle. That's all I know.
That's good. Well, I know that his recovery was going to be long and hard, and that there wouldn't be but very small changes that you would see in his character and personality over a period of 6 months to a year. I mean, it wasn't going to be happening overnight or even from month to month. It was going to take a long time. And we were very, very close, and I'd spent a lot of time with him. I'd stayed at his home, and anyhow, that in the hours that we've spent in talking, that and again, just kind of lost touch and haven't been able to get back with him, that I'd love to speak with him. In fact, the last time I spoke with him in the U.S., I spoke with him a time or two in the U.K., just via a cell phone that someone had handed him. But I had talked with him here just before he went back over to the U.K., and that he said, "Scott, I'm in a loony bin." I said, it's horrible here. And he was telling about the situation that he was in. But I know that he wasn't happy there, and it took him a while to kind of get adjusted. So I'm glad to hear that he's calm and doing as well as can be expected, then I guess, and does have people who are caring for him and taking care of him around the...
Yeah, and I believe he's still painting as well, which, of course, he was a great painter, so I think that keeps him busy. Like to think it keeps him busy.
That was the last thing he had said, because I said, "So what are you doing? I mean, you're not writing books or performing or doing anything." He said, "Well, I'm painting." So he was doing some art, and he was making money. He said, just from selling that. So okay, well, good on him. Yeah.
There's some great stories about him and his art that he's drawn over and painted over the years, which he did lecture at the Magic Circle. So hopefully once we can upload that one and we get up to date with those, that's definitely one to look up, because boy, does that a story. That is a story and a half, especially when it comes to the world of counterfeiting. I say no more.
Okay, man. Well, you opened up an interesting can there. I'd like to hear sometime. Oh,
absolutely. And if you get Simon on the phone, then he's definitely one to talk to.
Oh,
and you probably wouldn't be able to shut him up either, so maybe you should try for the future.
Well, that is true. Usually I just say, how's it going? And he takes off from there, so I don't have to ask many more questions.
It's amazing.
That's true. So at the Magic Circle, over the years, the different people who have come and gone, and people that you have seen, that I was just thinking about, Robert Harbin, for an example, someone I'd never met, but obviously I guess I'm assuming that you had seen perform there.
No, Robert Harbin, I'm not sure. Robert Harbin must have died before I joined, because I joined in 1986, I do believe. So I think he'd already passed by then. So no, I never got to see him perform, unfortunately. But everyone from Alan Shaxson all the way through to Alan Allen, through to Alex Elmsley, they were all regulars, and Ali Bongo would, these were my friends, they're my counterparts, and it was great spending time with these people, because it's certainly changed the world of magic. The big stage performers are getting less and less now, and it's all about the close-up magic and party magic.
Why do you think that magic is so popular in the UK versus the US? And I'm saying that for an example, that the size of England is about the size of some states here in the US.
Yeah.
And there are more magicians per capita in your country than I think anywhere, basically. I mean, there are probably more mentalists in Israel than per capita there, but but as far as the UK goes, I think. Are you including
good old Leo in there?
Of course.
Well, you can't call Guy Bavley because he's now a US. He's now in the US. So and Chaim Goldberg, I think he's in the US now. So they've all escaped just to leave Leo by himself in Israel.
Why do you think it is? I mean, what started that at the beginning in the history that people were just fascinated by that?
The Brits love entertainment. We're from, we probably created it, from British music hall, all the way through to theatre. We've got, obviously in London, we've got one of the biggest, most vibrant West Ends and theatre districts in the world. And we replicate that in every town. There's a theatre in every single time. So people are used to going out to see shows. At Christmas time, we have pantomimes, that is not what you think in America. So I do believe pantomime is a mime. It's like a Marceau.
Correct.
Over here, it's an interactive show where the entire audience talk back, scream back, sing back to what is happening on stage, and it's encouraged by the performers. And if you've never seen a British pantomime at Christmas, you don't know what you're missing.
I've heard about it. I've never attended.
Oh, it's just, they are the most wonderful things that you can ever attend. Generally, the male hero is played by is normally played by a woman. And the dame, the heroine is, there was like an ugly sister or a dame, and they're normally played by a man. So it makeup and full drag, and I was fortunate to go and see Paul Zerdin, who of course won America's Got Talent a few years ago, who's the ventriloquist. Yeah. He for the last 5 years has appeared at the London Palladium with some very huge stars that are in panto, and it's the things. It's a 8-week run, all the way through December into January. Twice a day, 6 days, or sometimes 7 days a week, and they do not stop working. And when you say the London Palladium's got something like 4,000 seats, it's 8,000 people a day, every single day, day in day out, all the way through December, and it is they are just so funny, they are hilarious. And they are colourful, and they spend a lot of money on the advertising, a lot of money on the program. But and as I say, it's replicated around the world, so it doesn't matter around the country. So it doesn't matter if you go to Wolverhampton or Glasgow. There's a theatre, and at Christmas time in December there will be a panto.
It's interesting about how that vaudeville had died so many years ago in the U.S. I mean, 100 years ago, basically, or a little less. Whereas that is still to a degree thriving, because I remember, some years ago talking to Paul Daniels about how that he was taking his show around different theaters throughout the UK, and I thought, well, where are you performing? Well, there are a lot of, as you just said, every little town has a theater for live theater, and that's just not the case around here, because people, I think, for the most part, would rather either go to the movie and be entertained and see it on celluloid, or stay at home and watch it on streaming and Netflix or television or whatever.
Yeah,
which is a sad thing.
Yeah, it is. So I think it just filters through, so that if there's a wedding or there's a birthday celebration, people will automatically want a live performer.
That's why magicians work at weddings over there, but they don't over here, because they want more entertainment, not necessarily just a band or a DJ. Over here, we have a lot of DJs. I suspect over there that you have that as well, but probably have more live bands than we do at weddings.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you think about it, there's a ample opportunity for you for magicians over there to home in, because if it's a success over here, there's no reason why it can't be a success in the US.
It's a mindset,
and when
though.
You think But you say it's a mindset, but it's giving them something that they haven't even thought about what they need. So of course, when you're at a drinks reception and you're having all the photos with the family and friends, all these people are waiting, just having a drink. So that's an ideal opportunity for a magician to go in there and entertain. And offer to be the MC to round up your friends and family when the next batch need to go and have the photographs. So you can't just be a magician; you can also be the MC, and then call everyone in for dinner, and then clink for the speeches, and then at the same time go around the tables. So and perform live entertainment. So where there's a will, there's a way. What I'm saying is that in marketing terms, the world is your oyster, and it's just. You need some magicians out there just thinking to myself, do you know what? I'm going to make this a challenge, and I'm going to convince people this is what they need.
I took that challenge, and I tried that, in which that I had dedicated a specific page on my website for doing weddings. I had gone to wedding conventions where I would have a booth, and I would be doing magic and giving out my card, and people were interested. They swarmed around the booth just as they normally would during a trade show. Also, I even had something in the New York Times. It did an article about alternative types of entertainment for weddings, and since I was unique in the United States and they recognized that, saw my website, they contacted me, and I had a piece actually in the entertainment section many years ago about that. Given all that, I still probably didn't do 3 weddings that whole year. And I was doing everything that I could. I thought to try to, except to be a wedding crasher, to walk in. I remember Paul Diamond, he had lecture notes saying, "It takes guts, damn it," in which that he would go into a trade show and he would just start performing in front of someone's booth. And then after he'd draw a few crowds, then he'd say, "If you want me to stay, it's going to cost so much." That he's kind of just, they may say yes or no and move on down or whatever, but he eventually started doing more and more trade shows. You could do that as a wedding crasher, I guess. You can walk into a wedding and start performing and say, "I can stick around a little bit longer if you're interested." But by that time, they've already got probably their expenditures made, and you're really not going to make anything from that. I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but I'm just saying I've tried this, and so if somebody's got another idea, they should write me.
Can I ask you, how long ago did you try?
That would have been, let's see, this is 2020, and I was trying that probably around 2010.
Okay, so you've now got 10 years. So in that 10 years, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't TikTok. So no one knew about magic, really, apart from going to the theatre and seeing it. Right. There wasn't even David Blaine. Well, David Blaine probably was 2010 is probably when he first hit. So I would say that your market may have changed now. The thought and the excitement of having a magician possibly may be there because they've seen it on TikTok, they've seen it on Facebook, they've seen it on social media, that magician, wow, that can have that effect. And there's some great magic out there that is tailored for weddings, for the bride and groom. Exactly. And of course, you go on about making the bride and groom the center of attention and doing a special trick just for them. So maybe now, don't be disheartened. And again, this is the same as relating back to TV. If you get a door blown in your face because your pitch didn't work with them, knock on another door. And if the timing isn't right, a year later, go and see the new people who are now head of their departments and the new commissioning editors, and go and see them. So a good idea is always a good idea. It's just a question of timing. Well, so you had that great idea 10 years ago. Timing possibly wasn't the right time. So you never know. This year maybe not this year. It will be the year.
Well, the thing about weddings, obviously, is that they're ideal if you just have the one wedding, but what you're wanting to be seen by are other people who are their friends who are thinking about getting married or perhaps are engaged, saying, "That's a good idea, I want to have you." And that was kind of what my thinking was, of trying to go in, if you're going to party crash or whatever, but at least trying to get in. But as a result of that, me trying to continue to contact people and put myself into different places where I could advertise to that group, and even talking with some wedding planners. I gave them out my cards and saying, when you're planning weddings for, all of the people that you do, when you're talking to the cake decorator and the wedding dress, whatever, that I'd be one of the entertainers. Never really came to fruition, but I ended up actually, I became ordained and I actually married people. I probably have done 100 weddings or more, from 2010 to 2020. So I did more weddings where I was actually the officiant, as opposed to performing. But my thought was, well, while you've got me here, I can stick around afterwards to entertain. It's like, no, we just want you to marry us.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find that people have changed. It's just like I remember going to Paris, 20 odd years ago, where if you spoke in English, they'd look at you totally blankly, and we would only speak in French and encourage you only to speak in French. Now you go to Paris, they want to speak English.
That's interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You try and speak to them in French. No, I want to speak in English.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, listen, as we start to close, and I appreciate your time, Darryl, very much in talking with me over here. And as far as the Magic Circle, if people want to find out more information about that, or to join, or how they would apply for membership, what would they do?
Well, you just go to themagiccircle.co.uk. That's themagiccircle.co.uk. I do suggest it's a most amazing time to join. You can join as an international member if you know a couple of members that are already members or that can vouch for you, and you can join as an apprentice. And within 2 years, you just need to submit an examination by video. Just one shot of you performing, a 7 or 8 minute routine to some people. And being an apprentice, you actually get access to the Facebook group straight away. You get access to the Magic Circular, which is our monthly magazine. So straight away you can be involved. And of course you can come whenever you're in London, wherever in the UK, you can come along. And if you're a full member, you can wear your badge with pride and call yourself a member of the Magic Circle. As an apprentice, you're just that. You're just an apprentice. You can't use it for publicity or anything. But that's the quickest way. Just join up, ask to be an apprentice. You'll get a telephone interview or a Skype interview with our examination secretaries that will just ask you a few questions, whether what you're into, or the books that you read, and be maybe asked to show us a little trick there and then. So know that you're good enough to be an apprentice. And as I say, once you're an apprentice, you're in, you've got all the benefits, and then you have 2 years to submit an exam to become a full member. And I'd point out also
a couple of things. One is that you do not have to be a resident of the UK. You can live anywhere in the world. And number two, Absolutely. That if you are outside of the UK, there is a reduced membership fee as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's in the big scheme of things, it's very, very inexpensive for what you get. And we're not like the Magic Castle. We're not a commercial organisation. We're a charity. We obviously have our lending library. We have a reference library with over 20,000 books. We've got a museum. We've got a nice, amazing collection of posters, and it's our heritage, and it's the props in the museum, and it's what we've been around for 115 years now. And we are there to protect and to educate and to entertain in the world of magic. So we're not reliant on guests coming through the door every single night. We're reliant on membership fees and being a community that around the world. And we have many hundreds of members that are not from the UK, everywhere from Australia all the way through to Alaska.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate you being my guest. And before we close, the name of my podcast is called The Magic Word, and so I'm always curious to know what my guest philosophy is. What do you live by? What is your magic word or phrase?
Ooh, you put me on the spot. My magic phrase.
I don't mean like abracadabra. I mean, what is it that's important to your life when you wake up in the morning that just charges you?
Just do everything to the best of your ability with kindness.
Oh, sound like David Devant.
All done with kindness. You're right. Do you know what? There you go. It subliminally must have gone into my mind. All done with kindness. Unfortunately, I don't have any eggs. Because COVID has made sure that you can't get any eggs in the supermarket. But there you go. So,
right.
The next time I see a pack of eggs, I'm going to boil them up and have as many in my hand as I can.
Well, listen, thanks again, Darryl. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Scott. Take care and see all your listeners.
It's over the Magic Word Podcast. That was Darryl Rose. This is Scotty out. Well, thank you, Darryl, very much for being my guest on this week's episode. I always enjoy getting a chance to chat with you, and I hope that the rest of the listeners got something out of this then as well. Always good to learn about the Magic Circle for other people to consider joining. It's a great organization, and you don't, again, have to live in the UK. You can be anywhere in the world. So check it out at themagiccircle.co.uk. So I'm going to close out here today. We got a lot of people who are waiting in the wings for future episodes, and I know that you're going to enjoy that. In order to keep up with who's going to be coming on from week to week, be sure to subscribe to our pod letter by just going to our website at themagicwordpodcast.com. And there you will see probably a pop-up that you can then fill out. And, of course, on the website, you can fill out the form if you are one of the magicians who needs relief or know someone who does. And, of course, you can fill out the form for the current contest we have for a free app of The Stranger for either your iPhone or the Android phone. And also, I encourage you, as I have the last couple of weeks, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll just go to YouTube and do a search for Scott Wells Magic or Texas Magician, I think you'll find me. And please subscribe, because there are some things I'd like to be able to do, but I can't until I get to a certain level of subscribers. So that would be helpful then as well. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to do everything that you can to the best of your ability, and do it with kindness. This is Scotty out.